Check, 1, 2.
One, two, three.
Welcome to Pièces de Résistance, a show about the geopolitical stakes of a world in turmoil. From London, I'm your host, Stan Vojevodsky. 2026 is poised to be a year of pivot for the global order. And if the next 350 days are as disruptive as the first 14, it will take more than a crystal ball to predict what our world will look like when we wake up on January 1st, 2027. But we can safely predict it is bound to be one of the most consequential years in recent decades for the concert of nations. From the U.S. military intervention, capture of Nicolas Maduro, regime transition in Caracas on January 3rd, to heightened tensions and not-so-veiled threats of similar operations levied against Cuba, Mexico, Colombia, the annexation of Greenland, regime change in Iran, to the resolution or escalation of the Ukraine conflict with Russia, to the fate of NATO and that of the transatlantic relation, all seems to point to one thing. The age of strategic ambiguity, as the U.S. conduct of foreign affairs is concerned, is all but over. The Madman doctrine, which Kissinger associated with Nixon's conduct of foreign policy, including to pressure North Vietnam on a resolution of the conflict, will from now on be associated with President Trump. Dangerous and unpredictable. Yet every action and policy decision coming out of the White House in the weeks and months to come should be seen through the prism of the upcoming midterm elections. Reconciling the Latino vote, the MAGA base, evangelical electorate, blue-collar and rural voters, middle class and independents will be a very delicate balancing act for the Trump White House. And President Trump understands that should he lose the House and potentially the Senate, his presidency will at best be a lame duck and at worst, a stepping stone to impeachment. Should he win, however, and beat the odds, his next 2 years will most certainly determine the following 4. The stakes couldn't be higher. Tucker Carlson called it the death of the Republic and the coming of age of the U.S. empire. I challenged that assumption in a recent post on our X account. I prefer to call this phase in the American political experience as the age of Caesarism, to quote Howard Spengler in his 1918 book, Decline of the West, an era where voters have all but lost faith in their political establishment and the institutions which they deem plutocratic and corrupt. They choose to elect an authoritarian populist leader with a military penchant that appeals to their fears and frustrations, points to the existing political system as responsible for their problems, and proceeds with burning down the House. Howard Spengler says this phase signals the twilight of the Republic. I prefer the more nuanced theory put forth by historian Paul Kennedy in his 1987 opus, Rise and Fall of Great Power, where the imperial overstretch, namely that the total sum of interests around the world far exceeds the total resources to address them, can be rectified and the Republic, to an extent, be saved. Pièces de Résistance, through its geopolitical analysis and the subject matter experts and global leaders who will be invited on the show this year, will attempt to try and make sense of the world around us. Thank you for tuning in to Pièces de Résistance.
Great.